Hi everybody!
There's only two good aspects to the Game Awards, the announcement trailers and the salty comments if you so much as say the Game Awards are a sham. I've said why they are in a previous video. So we'll disregard that for this video and instead cover the games I have a feeling could get announced at the Game Awards. We'll start with the likeliest candidates and then work our way down to the long shots. And at the very end of the video, some games I want to personally see get announced. So for our first game we have Resident Evil 5, a game that has been rumored for donkey's years at this point. If you've had your ear to the ground since Capcom first announced Resident Evil 2's remake, then you'll have heard fans banging with pots and pans begging Capcom for a Resi 5 remake. It makes sense as to why. Despite Resident Evil 5 being seen as a mediocre title by a lot of people, basically the reason people are asking for the 5th game to be remade comes down to it deserving more than what it got previously. So let's face it, Capcom loves money, and they know the Resident Evil brand will make them more money. And these remakes, despite being high quality, don't require as much investment for resources as, say, Resident Evil 9 would. Also, Resident Evil 5 would almost certainly be a nice capstone to their RE engine in its current state, since Capcom have announced their latest iteration of it, which is going to be called the Rex engine. Gee, I wonder what game they could be teasing with that one. We'll cover that in greater detail later on in the video under the long shot category, but overall, I think this is quite likely to happen, and we're going to see Resident Evil 5. This one could go either in the likely or long shot categories. The second game I could see being announced is Persona 6. We know Atlus intends to release 2 Persona games next year. We already know Persona 3 Reload is one of them. As for what the second could be, we really have no idea. I recently covered when we can expect Persona 6, so click the card popping up now if that interests you. Personally though, I'm less inclined to think we'll get this one unless Atlus really want to go hard at 2024, or if this game's intended for an early 2025 release. Some rumors have indicated it might be a Persona party game, which seems kind of silly if you ask me. Other rumors are indicating it might be a remake of Persona 4 Golden, which doesn't really make much sense to me when you look at it, since Persona 4 is by and large the second most popular Persona title. Also, it's only just in recent years that Persona 4 Golden has become readily available to the masses, so a remake at this point makes almost no sense. Then again, I said the same thing of Persona 3, so what the fuck do I know? Anyways, we know Atlus are working on some kind of Persona project. If I was to make a proper prediction, I'll say it's either going to be a Persona 4 or Persona 5 related game. If it's Persona 4 related, I could see it being the rumored party game, as that setting fits the Persona 4 cast better in my mind. As for Persona 5, there have been rumors of a Persona 5 fighter in the future. I previously covered that in another video, so a card for that will be popping up now. But considering Persona is now a household name, something being announced at the Game Awards makes some kind of sense to me, especially since Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal are two of the exceptions where the Game Awards threw the Weebasites a bone. Anyways, getting on to game number 3. Okay, this one admittedly isn't a proper announcement. It's a game we've known about for a while, but it's a big one. That being Marvel's Wolverine, developed by Insomniac Games. So far we have only had the announcement trailer, and wow is the game ever beautiful if that's what it's going to look like. Rumors have indicated we're going to see Wolverine next year. If that winds up being the case, that'll mean the only year we haven't gotten a new game from Insomniac will have been 2022. I can definitely see Wolverine making an appearance, even if it might make more sense for Sony to do a dedicated state of play for just Wolverine. I just feel like the Game Awards make the most sense, as that basically means Sony will have the most potential eyes on Wolverine. Even though the State of Plays and PlayStation Showcases are massive experiences, the only people who really pay attention to them are Sony ponies and content creators. The general public is typically less interested in them. Basically, it comes down to the Game Awards being able to drive the most hype for the project, kind of akin to what E3 used to be. Also, given Marvel's Spider-Man 2 has been nominated in multiple categories, it makes sense for Insomniac Games to have some kind of presence at the Game Awards. At minimum, I could see us getting a short snippet of gameplay, so even if it's not Wolverine, I think we might get a surprise from Insomniac. So let's look at what might be announced if it isn't Wolverine. Given Insomniac Games operate on a 2-team system, it wouldn't surprise me if Insomniac uses this platform as an opportunity to announce a new project. I've speculated on what that could potentially be in another video. I think there's a very real chance it could be a brand new Resistance game. Given Insomniac job postings, they have indicated they are looking for programmers who have experience with multiplayer projects. We also know Sony wants to use the PlayStation 5 to celebrate the PlayStation as a brand. What better way to do so than relaunching one of the most iconic titles from the PS3 era? Also, it fulfills a niche that Sony don't currently have covered while also still fitting the cinematic mandate they've been known for the better part of a decade. Resistance would definitely make sense to return at the Game Awards. Plus, it would fit the wants of the normies well enough to not be out of place. Because it seems like the average gamer today is a gun-loving hillbilly. It's like they'd all get along with Machias from Trails if they'd give anything that isn't gray or beige a chance. If Insomniac isn't working on Resistance though, I think they'll announce the multiplayer project here, just because this is easily one of the times where the studio will have all eyes on them. And if they can leverage this, they'll propel their status to new heights that Ted Price could have only dreamed of when he established the brand in February of 1994. Seriously, with Insomniac turning 30 next year, they're going to want to celebrate in some way. This one might seem out of left field, but fuck it. NetherRealm Studios is never one to rest on their laurels, and the Injustice games do fill a niche that no one else in the FGC is servicing. That being a dedicated superhero fighting game. Since superheroes are still at the forefront of the cultural zeitgeist, games like Injustice make a lot of sense. On average, the studio releases a new game every 2 years. The cycle was broken between 2019 and 2023. The cycle was also further broken by the new game being yet another reboot of Mortal Kombat. Basically, we're due for a brand new Injustice game, even if it's not slated for release straight away. On average, a lot of the games announced at the award ceremony tend to be a year or two out, so this would actually be the ideal time to announce a brand new Injustice title for 2025. Let's hope it isn't Zone or Hell like the Injustice games tend to be. It's like the designers ran against an AI-controlled Athena in an early King of Fighters game and decided, hey, that was fun. Also, let's face it, fighting games are set to break back into the mainstream thanks to esports. Plus, it would be typical of the type of trolling Ed Boon loves doing, since the Mortal Kombat games are widely considered some of the most popular fighting games out there, and there were rumors we'd see what would become Mortal Kombat 1 at the Game Awards last year. We got nothing, obviously. Just imagine how salty NetherRealm fans would be if Ed Boon did pull this stunt. So this is the last entry for the likely ones. Despite being a niche game mechanically, the Monster Hunter games have found a home in the West in recent years thanks to Monster Hunter World. Also, if you look at the press release Capcom put out regarding the new iteration of the RE engine now going under the Rex nomenclature, it got me thinking of what the game could be. They expect it to sell tons of copies, specifically in the multi-millions. Monster Hunter World moved 22.5 million units worldwide if you include all of its expansions, so that fits with what Capcom have said. Also, if you look at Monster Hunter as a whole, it would make sense why the engine built around it might be called Rex. Even though the RE engine's official name is really called Reach for the Moon, it did debut with Resi 7, so it's just inherently linked with the Resident Evil franchise at that point in time, hence why people call it the Resi engine. Also, let's face it, Monster Hunter as a series does have a lot of scaly critters, so that makes some semblance of sense. Plus, the last mainline game came out in 2022, meaning a late 2024 release or even an early 2025 release window would work out well. I would say it's likely we at minimum see something Monster Hunter related, especially if Capcom want to showcase what the Rex engine can do. Again, like all of the other entries on the list, all eyes will be on it. Plus, we know Capcom is intending to license out the Rex engine. What better way to get other developers buying it than to show it off at the Game Awards? So for this segment, we're going to cover games that I think could happen, but are less likely to, plus the games I want to see. For the first entry, we're going to stick with Capcom. There have been rumors flying about the longest time there'd be a new Dino Crisis game. I personally feel these rumors are true. Also, like a Monster Hunter game, a new Dino Crisis title would be the perfect showcase of what the new engine can do. Unless, of course, Resident Evil 9 winds up being focused around a virus that gives lizard-like mutations. Either way, all three could be really on the nose. Also, since we know the first game using the new engine is expected to move millions of units, this kind of eliminates Dino Crisis, as it has never been the biggest seller, even in its heyday. But I do think one is coming, given there's a ton of fan demand for one now, and companies love money. Capcom would be leaving a lot of money on the table if they don't give us a Dino Crisis title at some point in the near future. If you paid any attention to the Nvidia leak, a remake for Final Fantasy IX was listed. I don't think this one is too likely to be announced at the Game Awards, as this seems far more fitting for an event like Tokyo Game Show or even a Summer Games Fest, an event that's still relatively large but not super huge. But stranger things have happened, and we know Square Enix aren't exactly in the best of places currently, given they're taking massive hits on some big projects. So what better way to get people talking about the company in a positive light than to remake a beloved game from the PS1 era? When I get to talking to Final Fantasy fanatics, most tell me their favorites are either Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX, so to me it makes sense to remake it. Also, given how many projects that were revealed from the Nvidia leak, it wouldn't surprise me if we hear something about the project in the near future. Also, as a bonus game to this particular point, Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered was also leaked in the same document. So I wouldn't be surprised if 9 and Tactics wind up being a sort of package deal. When one gets announced, the other will be at the same time, hence why I'm including both of them in one entry, as there's just no elegant way for me to include Final Fantasy Tactics in its own spot, since that game is so niche that I don't think it's too likely. But it is beloved enough that it's conceivable it will be announced around the same time as 9, especially since they're both of relatively the same vintage. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Xbox games since they are primarily focused on shooters, something I'm not admittedly very big on, however, I do think we're due for a new Gears of War game. The last game in the series came out in 2019, so if the game comes out in 2024, that hits the 5-year mark, which is around typical for game development in this day and age. If Microsoft do launch a new Gears game, that gives them at minimum one big hitting IP for next year. Plus, the Game Awards is perfect for this kind of game to be announced. However, given Gears 5 sold less than expected, I have some doubts on this one. So this one I couldn't decide if it's in the likely category or the unlikely one, that game being a brand new Spyro title. There have been rumors going around for a while that a new Spyro game is going to happen, it's just a matter of when, not if. Basically, the pandemic and the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft has clearly slowed down production of games from the publisher and its subsidiaries. Also, if you look at Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, it was announced at the Game Awards 2018 and then released in June of 2019. As of right now, Activision don't have any kid-friendly titles slated for 2024, and typically they like to at minimum release one per year, meaning Spyro is perfectly slotted in, especially since Crash Bandicoot needs a break. Bandicoots do sleep for 12 hours a day, and let's face it, Crash hasn't been getting much sleep since 2017. Between 2017 and 2023, the lovable orange marsupial has only had years off in 2018 and 2022. Spyro, on the other hand, has been sleeping a lot, only getting the remake trilogy in 2018 and nothing since. Basically, it's about effing time we got a new Spyro game. Also, if Spyro 4 or its reboot does well, this would well and truly indicate that 3D platformers are worth a publisher's time, and we might see them get their Silver Age. I'm working on a video detailing when we can expect the Silver Age of 3D platformers in the future, and it will be the capstone of the trilogy of videos detailing fighting games and JRPGs' Silver Ages. Either way, given Activision's past of actually putting out these characters at big events, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Spyro make an appearance, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make an appearance either. So those were the 10 games I could see getting announced at the Game Awards. What games would you like to see announced, and what games do you expect will be? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, thanks go out to R. Campbell for being a channel member. If you want to help the channel out, consider clicking the join button or clicking the link in the description. If I reach 26 members, I'll buy a Hori Fighting Commander Octa and review it. Also, if you liked the video, hit the like button, and consider hitting the subscribe button as well. We're currently on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm hoping to hit that by Christmas. If you want to watch 2 of my previous videos, you can either click Why the Game Awards Are a Sham, or click on my video about the multiplayer project Insomniac Games have in the works. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.